Today I'd like to do a product review of a radio. This is the Sangean Digital AM/FM Weather Alert Pocket Radio DT-400W. It has a lot of nice features that you don't get with some cheaper radios. Some of those features are a digital AM/FM tuner. You have NOAA weather and emergency alerts, all 7 channels, 19 random presets. You have a lock switch button here. A very large LCD display, it's durable as well. Auto seek features, optional 90-minute auto shutoff, built-in speaker, clock, removable belt clip. You have an option for external antenna, and then it runs on 2 AA batteries. So what I'd like to do for this review is just go over an overview of the features. We'll go over the size and weight, the dimensions of it, and then I'll talk about the pros and cons as I see it. So let's get started with this product review. Let's start off with doing a brief overview of the features of this radio. Now the feature I like the best on this radio is the digital AM/FM tuner. It's a very nice tuner. It really locks onto the signal, and it does that because it uses a combined advanced PLL Synthesized digital receiver, and it also has a dynamic boost bass system onto it. And so what PLL stands for, that means phase locked loop, which basically is an electronic circuit with a voltage or current driven oscillator that's constantly adjusting to match in phase with the frequency. So it locks onto the signal, and it has a very clear signal when you're listening to it. Now be warned, for this review, what I've been finding is that my signal gets affected by the lights that I use for the tabletop reviews. So you can hear how the signal goes bad like that. So don't let the signal quality here really reflect on how this radio sounds. It sounds really good. It's very crystal clear, especially when you're listening to FM radio stations. So let's zoom in a little closer and talk about some of the features in more detail. So on the top here's where you have the power button. You have an analog volume control. Here's the headphone jack, which is also where you plug in your external antenna. We'll talk about them more later. This is the DBB, the dynamic bass boost system. Over here on the side is where you have your speakerphone. Not speakerphone, but speaker, mono, and stereo. And you're really only going to do the stereo when you have the headphones in there. It doesn't really make a difference with this. You have your lock button here, so when the lock is up, none of these buttons are going to work. And that helps, if it's sitting in your pocket, you're not going to run the juice down. This is your weather emergency alert button. And then you have your tuning here, your memo, your band. You could set your favorites. And it has a very nice large LCD display. It's very durable, easy to read. It's backlit, has a night light, which is handy if you're listening to the radio at dark. It also displays the time, the station, the battery life indicator, alert indication, and then other important information as well. It has a little speaker here in the front. The back, as we talked about, is 2 AA batteries. And then you have this removable belt clip. The thing that's most unique about this radio is that it does not have an internal antenna, like a telescoping antenna, like what you get with this Kato radio. Basically, what you need to have is you need to add either a headphone jack in there, or you need to add the external antenna that comes with it, which is this very long, droopy-looking noodle. And it kind of takes some getting used to. I'm not sure if I love it or hate it yet at this point. So you just plug it into here. Without having that on there, you're not going to be able to listen to your FM or your weather alert stations. Let's turn it on. 100-970-6560. Let's go there. So as you can hear with the FM station, it's working just fine. Take that out and you're not going to hear anything. So why they do this is they don't want you to actually break this and never be able to play your radio again. Versus with this telescoping, if you bend this and break it, which we've all done, you're kind of screwed on your radio. So I think that's why they went with this kind of noodle approach. It's kind of like a antenna that needs Viagra. But I can't believe I added that in the review. But so what I usually do is just kind of wrap it around like this, and you kind of have your antenna like that. Sometimes it's kind of a nuisance, but it's definitely, if you wanted this in an emergency bag, you don't have to worry about ever breaking your antenna, that's for sure. But you do have to worry about losing it. When you have the headphones in there, that also serves as the antenna. So it's non-telescoping. It's possible to lose. I would think I would prefer like a internal retractable antenna if they wanted to go with this approach with having a soft antenna. I think I'd prefer to have one that's maybe a retractable, kind of like those little USB retractable mice that you use for your laptops. But that's just my personal take. So I'm perfectly fine with this because I listen to AM radio stations anyway. Alright, so a few more things to talk about this radio. As I mentioned earlier, it has NOAA Weather and Emergency Alert. Now NOAA basically stands for, I talked about this more in the radio review I did for the Eaton Microlink FR160. NOAA, it stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's a federal agency focused on the condition of oceans and the atmosphere, and it also provides you with some other information like amber alerts and things like that. So to access the weather alert, you just press this button over here with the power on. And then you have your 7 different channels. Now if you do not have this antenna plugged in, it's not going to work. Alright, so let's go off of the weather alert. Here's the AM radio station. That's FM. I'll turn the volume up a little bit. So that's up to max right now. Great music, huh? I'll put up the dynamic bass boost. As you can hear, it doesn't really do anything when you have a speakerphone on. This radio has an auto seek feature as well, which helps with the tuning. When you turn it on, you see this little 90-minute clock here. Let me zoom in really quick. So when you turn it on, you're going to see that. Basically, that means it's going to shut off automatically in 90 minutes. So if you don't want to have that on, when you first power it on, you just hold down the power button, and that'll disappear like that. So basically it just helps kind of also help on your battery life. Now speaking of battery life, if you're going to be keeping this in your emergency backpack, you will definitely want to take the batteries out of it, because as you see, it's digital display. When you have the power off, it's still going to be displaying the clock, and it's also, if you have weather alerts set up, it's also going to be sucking down juice for that. So if you're keeping this in your bug out bag, for example, I would take the batteries out of it. The belt clip is removable in it. The speaker's real nice. It's about 1 inch in diameter, and that's about it on the features for this. You also have 19 random presets for your My Favorites, so you could program what radio stations you really like listening to. Let's quickly go over the dimensions and weight of this radio. Now this radio, the width is 2.5 inches or 6.35 centimeters. The length is 4.25 inches, which is 10.8 centimeters, and the thickness is about 1 inch, which is 2.54 centimeters. Now the weight for this is listed as 3.62 ounces without the batteries. So let's test it really quick with the batteries. So with batteries, it's 5.5 ounces or 155 grams. Let's go over the pros and cons of this radio. Now, the best thing about it, it's a very high quality pocket radio made by a great company. It's very sturdy. The build quality is fantastic in my opinion. It does not feel like a made in China cheapo radio. It definitely has a long lasting feel to it, even with the LCD screen. That's not going to break on you. Believe me, I've been trying. So, and I find that the AM and FM reception, when you do have the antenna plugged in, I think it's the best reception that I've found so far on any of the radios that I've tested on this channel. So I have a few more that I'm actually going to be testing, but so far it's the best one. Great sound on it. It's a very nice size as well. I would call this a pocket radio. It's not as bulky as the Sony radio, maybe not as small as the Kato, but it's pretty good, I think, especially for getting the NOAA weather alerts and everything. So the size and weight is good. It's a lot smaller than I expected. I really like the yellow color for it. I think it's great if you're trying to find it in an emergency, which is something that I'm planning on using this radio for. Finding an emergency and the lights might be out, and I think this will be a little easier to find than finding a black radio. I like that it takes AA batteries. That's my favorite battery, especially for emergency purposes. I think they're the easiest ones to find. It has a great battery life so far, what I've been finding with my testing. The belt clip is very sturdy. I don't think you're going to break it at all, and I find that I use it a lot. And it's a feature I never really thought about with some other radios, but I really wish that all my radios had a belt clip on it. It's very easy to program once you've kind of mastered how to do it. So programming, it's very, very simple, and I really like the digital tuning on it. So, your little $10 to $15 radio with the slide analog, like this. It's going to move around on you a little bit. You're going to lose your station over time. This one really locks into it. You're not going to lose your station as you're listening, which is important to me. Alright, on to the cons. Now the number one con that I found with this radio is it is a little expensive. It's around $50 on Amazon, which is kind of pricey for a little pocket radio like this. For $50 you could buy the Kato KA200. You could also get the Eaton Microlink FR160. and you might even have 10 bucks to spend on something else, like maybe the Sony radio or just another piece of gear. So you have to decide whether you want to get all three of these. This also has weather alert. This is does really good on the AM/FM radio, and then $10 is nice to have. Or do you want to have a very high quality radio? So it's up to you guys. I really enjoy having this nice radio, but it's definitely a con. The price, it's kind of expensive. Another con with it I found is the warranty on it. It's only a 90-day warranty, and for such a high price item I would really like it to have more like a 1-year warranty, which I found that I do use on some radios, as I'll talk about later on a future video. Another con with it is the antenna. You might lose this antenna, which would really suck, especially if you're into listening to FM radio stations. You know, if you lose it and while it's in your pocket, for example, you're not going to be able to listen to the speaker. So that's definitely, I think it's kind of a con with it. Another con is that the battery life is going to drain. For example, if you have the NOAA alert mode on indefinitely, it's going to draw the battery down. Also, if you have, let's see, the clock and the my favorite settings, it's also going to drain the battery over time. So if you're planning on having this in a bug out bag or any kind of emergency supply kit, take the batteries out. Otherwise, you're going to drain it's going to be dead when you need to use it. And then the last con that I could find with this is that you cannot delete any of the favorites that you have programmed. You can only overwrite them. So, that's just a minor little con with it. But those are the cons I have for the Sangean. In conclusion, I highly recommend the Sangean DT-400W. I think it's a remarkably well-engineered product. It's going to be built to last. It might be the last pocket radio that you need to buy for a very long time. Very high quality. I'd recommend getting a nice set of stereo headphones with it, and you're going to be really happy, especially if you enjoy listening to FM radio stations. So again, it's around $50 on Amazon.com, and I highly recommend it for EDC purposes, for your bug out bags, and just to have a radio around the house if you enjoy listening to the radio. Again, this is the Sangean Digital AM/FM Weather Alert Pocket Radio DT-400W. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please feel free to leave any comments below, and I will talk with you more later. Take care.